Welcome to this week's show. We're going to be catching up with the children who won the Agri Kids Award for the best team in the Young Farmers Finals up from the North Island. We're also going to be talking to this year's overall winner, who's Matt Bell. We're also going to be talking about the Canterbury MP Show because there's a special announcement as of this week, basically that the tickets are on sale, but we'll find out why you need to be there. And we're going to be looking at eventing, but in just a moment is animal health, prevention and cure. Culling is very, very important in a season that we're looking down the barrel of, but it must be tough to work out which ones to get rid of when they're healthy.
It can be, Rob. I guess what's invoked me to think about talking about this today is probably our friends in the small acreages, lifestyle block farmers. And unfortunately we've seen just quite a few issues with, in my opinion, breeding stock that probably shouldn't have been bred through this season. That's resulted in a number of ewes struggling to maintain body condition through a lactation and a resulting very high level of metabolic disease. And some of these problems have been relatively simple when we look at these animals. You know, some of them are totally broken in the mouth, have no teeth left at all, and probably should have been on the cull list, if not last season, even the season before. And so I guess it brings about an important aspect of responsibility in regard to welfare, and sometimes, you know, getting rid of these animals is a real positive for welfare. And obviously when we've got restriction on resources and feed in particular, I mean, it makes very little sense to carry through animals that aren't just going to be efficient in producing what you want to, and that's whether you're a lifestyle block farmer or a commercial farmer for that matter.
But if you only own 20, it's pretty tempting to get as many out of them as you can, I guess.
But I would suggest maybe it's more tempting to maybe even run a little replacement system where you're going to have some younger, better health status animals that are breeding anyway. So dentition, obviously we've just mentioned, and that's a real clanger when it comes to identifying animals that should be culled and taken out of the flock. So this is the time of year to be thinking about that. On top of that, we've pretty much finished lambing, and we should be looking at problematic issues, animals that have perhaps had a bout of mastitis and have only got one titters or no titters. Obviously sheep with only one functional half of an udder, they're going to be less efficient at feeding lambs, particularly multiparous, if we've got twins and triplets fighting for the same nutrition, then that's an obvious reason to look at putting them on the cull list as well. The old chronic limpers, the old chronic lameness issues, not only is it important from a welfare perspective and the individual animal struggling to maintain condition, burning up a lot of energy hobbling around, but a lot of these lameness issues, when we're talking about foot rot and things like that, very contagious, very infectious, and are just a chronic source of ongoing shedding bacteria and bugs around the environment. So getting rid of them has benefits not only for the welfare of that animal, but also for the welfare of the whole flock in general.
So foot rot's still a major problem? Because I thought we'd got on top of it a bit.
We have on the main part, but we still do see problems, and I still see some issues with hobbling sheep, even on the flat here. And it's well drained areas like Canterbury are typically less of a problem, but we still are seeing some issues here.
And of course then you've got abscess and you've got mud between the toes and scald and...
Exactly. Scald generally is a prerequisite to foot rot anyway. So yeah, it's I think these real chronic limpers that we just can't get on top of, definitely a good advertisement to say goodbye. Exactly. I guess the other very, very obvious thing is if we've had issues with birthing and there's been a fair bit of trauma in delivering lambs, and especially those cases that have had ongoing problems after such assistance, we might have some pathology or disease in the uterine tract, infections and things like that. Those animals are much less likely to get back in calf or in lamb. And so these are things to think about. Maybe more of a problem when we're talking about cattle farming than sheep farming, but still something to be borne in mind. There can be a number of other issues, and any ewes that have struggled to make condition through the prior pregnancy for various reasons, it could be a good reason to start thinking about quitting them as well. Obviously the draw on that animal through a lactation is going to be significant, and if they've gone into that lactation under condition and you're expecting them to feed some lambs, then get some condition back, flush them properly to get them back in lamb, that can be a struggle, and maybe it's easier to mark those animals for cull and actually start with a better class of animal for breeding next year.
Genetic disease?
Yeah, I guess we should talk about it. There's a number of them out there that we need to be aware of. Perhaps the most common that we see is entropion, which is the infolding of the eyelid in the lamb, and often we still see these little lambs brought in with very, very sore eyes in the first week or two of life, ulcers on their corneas, and the classic for that is this disease called entropion, where the lower eyelid in particular is folded in on itself. It's too big, and the hair or fur on the lower lid is rubbing directly on the eye. It's genetic. Obviously it involves input from both the ram and the ewe, but that may well be an indication to look at altering genetics as far as either ram or ewe is concerned, to avoid that. There are some much more lethal genetic diseases, and obviously the importance comes in getting that diagnosed correctly. But if there are some weird issues, anatomical issues or problems creeping up, and you're getting a number of lambs affected, very important in those instances to get a veterinarian involved. If it is a genetic problem, getting the diagnosis nailed is the first priority, and then of course we can look at altering the breeding management and avoiding these problems coming up, working out who's carrying which trait and whether it's a dominant recessive genetic disease. All these more technical factors that probably are best discussed with the veterinarian, dependent on the diagnosis itself.
And very briefly, if you have an abortion in a herd or flock, should you move them on?
It's a hard one. Sometimes if we've had an abortion storm, because of the propensity for infectious diseases and causing these, immunity for survivors can be very long-standing. So sometimes those animals, as long as things have been managed properly, can be very valuable for the future of the farm involved, because we may have very long-lasting immunity and their susceptibility to future problems may be very minimal indeed if they've already gone through an abortion storm.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick, and obviously the secret is to keep in touch with your vet. AgriKids is a junior section as far as a Young Farmer of the Year is concerned. It's those who are in primary school, and this year the team who won it came from Taitapu. Congratulations, boys. Now, how much work did you put in? How much practice?
Oh, not really that much actually. I was sort of just helping out Dad and that. And
sort of been sort of lifelong, so it wasn't really practice for the actual event, it was practice just for being on the farm, doing things on the farm.
So what were some of the tasks you had to do?
Oh, we had to do lots of modules and an exam. So it was, yeah.
Basically what happened is there was three big things, and in one of them there was 7 different modules that you had 10 minutes on, and it was like naming soils, naming animals, putting a milking machine together. And then on the next one there was cooking, and it was making sushi. We didn't thought it was a very farmy thing, we thought it was going to be like making scones or something like that. And then the last thing was an exam, and so we had to do a 150 word essay. I don't know what we did that on. It was like something around farming, something around agriculture, why people should get into agriculture. And then we just did, it was like naming animals and stuff like that throughout the exam.
So you must have had a pretty big general knowledge to be able to do everything from making sushi to writing an essay.
Yes, Yeah, we didn't do too bad, which was
Yeah,
really
Jimmy does a lot of sushi making, so he has a bit of it in his lunch, so he's pretty good at that.
Now, as a team, how long did you work together as a team?
Oh, probably about 3 months we got before the competition.
Yeah, we were together at school, so we just knew each other a bit, and we'd been doing like pet days together. So yeah, we've been going to big events and pet days and doing stuff there.
So now you've won Agri Kids, you're not allowed to enter again because you've got the trophy.
Yeah.
Is it a year off?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's teen ag. So after that, teen ag.
Will the team stay together or is it different schools?
Well,
Not too sure about that.
Yeah. I think it's only 2 people are allowed to enter in teen ag.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 agri kids, 2 teen ag, and then 1 young farmer. So you sort of take one person off your team every time, and then it's yeah.
Now, serious question, are you guys all going to go into agriculture?
Yes,
Probably.
definitely. Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
will go into agriculture.
And what would your advice be to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and why they should get into agriculture?
It's real fun. You get to go and get your hands dirty. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay to go into a rugby pitch or something like that. You can just go in the field and try to catch a sheep or ride a sheep or do something like that, and you're always getting dirty. And yeah,
There's nothing wrong with dirty knees, is there?
no.
Great future for those 3 I'm very, very positive about. After the break, we're going to be talking with Nick Page again about working dogs and keeping them in top-rate order.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep-sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
The long-lost heroes, or the back seat people who do all the hard work, I guess, are working dogs and often overlooked.
Often overlooked, although I'm happy to say that in the last 5 years I've seen a very, very steady improvement in their lot, and it was a little bit sad, I must say, even as early as 5 years ago, to say that, you know, I still struggled with some basic issues in regard to working dog health, especially talking about parasite control and nutrition, and I kind of felt a little bit sad that in this day and age that was still a concern. But I'm happy to say that in recent years there's been, in my opinion, a dramatic improvement in those basic husbandry issues.
I mean, nutrition is obviously very important, and people just throw a bone at them or throw some biscuits at them and walk away.
Absolutely, I think, and I think my biggest issue was I feel that a lot of these dogs were run a little bit lighter than what they should have been. And if I have to say, to look at the about turn, these days I'm worried about the other side of the coin.
They've got obese.
They've got a little bit bigger than I'd like to see, as far as a working animal goes. But certainly, I think on the whole much better, and I think there's been a big move towards more balanced nutritional management, so actually more commercially driven feeding, which I think has been a really good thing. Some of these commercial feeds have been very well researched, very well designed, and balanced totally for the purpose of the working dog. And not only, I might add, in an international perspective, often very local and looking very much at pastoral New Zealand based systems when we're talking about what's required of these dogs. So I think that maybe have a lot to do with the improvement in the nutritional aspects of managing the dogs.
And vary it so that it's not boringly simple every day.
Definitely. I think if we're talking about any home-based meals, it's also important to remind people perhaps that parasite control is important, and there is an obligation involved that if we're feeding offal or meat-based product, that we look at deactivating any potential tapeworm cysts, including hydatids. I know we haven't seen a case for many years, but it's very important to maintain vigilance when it comes to keeping New Zealand free of this terrible disease that's worldwide has killed lots of children, lots of people.
So this is cooking everything first?
Absolutely. Either cooking food before it's fed, especially offal, or being frozen for at least 10 days to deactivate tapeworm cysts. And this is important for sheep measles as well. That will deactivate the cyst in the meat, and so it will stop the passage of the tapeworm through the dog, and that's really the hallmark of controlling sheep measles and false hydatids as well.
Because we used to have dog dosing strips. There was a song about the one at Dunsandel.
Absolutely. I know that song too. I won't sing it just now.
No, I'm glad about that, Nick.
But yeah, I mean, although anthelmintic or worming treatments is an important aspect of controlling these parasites, and very important for other parasites as well, roundworms and things, especially with puppies. It should be done regularly, but I think maybe there was traditionally an over-reliance on drug therapy, on worming, and actually the hallmark for control of these parasites has to be correct feeding and controlling of scavenging and things like this. Other benefits of that as well, it's been well shown that scavenging, especially in the hunterway, is a major influence in GDV, gastric dilatation volvulus, or more commonly known as twisted stomach, and these animals just die overnight. You've got to get to them very quickly, and many very valuable dogs are lost from GDV or twisted stomach.
Or twisted bowel as well.
The hunterway breed, and scavenging has been shown to be a very strong factor in that disease. It needs very rapid emergency attention, which is hard enough to get in many rural areas, let alone if it's happening at night when you're not there to see.
Exactly. Now housing, because we used to not worry too much, but now I guess motels are the case?
Yeah, there's a few aspects to housing that are important. One, of course, is shelter from the weather, and of course preservation of energy. And the other things to be aware of, again, involve parasite control. Hookworm in particular, blood-sucking parasite, and the larvae can penetrate the foot pads and the skin and the feet, and so elevating the dog from potentially fecal contaminated environment, very important in preventing hookworm infection, although I think with decent hygiene and a good worming management strategy, hopefully that's not as much of a problem anyway. Fleas as well. Obviously environmental contamination of with flea larvae and pupae, very important, and the eggs as well. And the hallmark of that, and why control's so good these days, is these are the modern parasite control products that have a lot of residual activity, and also the dander produced by the dog itself is permeated with these medications, falls off the dog and kind of sterilises the environment. So although clean housing, clean bedding is important in that control, a good preventative strategy is important also.
Bit of disinfectant in the motel doesn't do any harm, does it?
No, not at all. And keeping a clean environment, obviously very important.
You're probably going to talk about clean water,
Clean water.
because that's one of your bones of contention.
It
isn't
is. The basics are always my little bones of contention. But in actual fact, maybe one of the big things to talk about is some advancement in working dog health that we've seen over recent years. And there's 3 diseases in particular which I guess we've made leaps and bounds. And one is chorioretinitis, a terrible eye disease, results in blindness, particularly in collie dogs. We've now seen a very, very strong link between that disease and poor parasite control or migrating parasite larvae. So hopefully we'll get some more information in regard to that out in the next few years. As far as hunterways go again, there's been very good advancement in looking at the heritability of both cruciate disease, rupturing cruciate ligaments, and hip dysplasia. And so hopefully this is the first aspect of looking at good preventative strategies as far as using scores for these diseases and maybe pulling some animals out of the breeding regime and maybe pushing other animals in and selectively breeding with appropriate partners to make a good inroad into both of those orthopaedic diseases.
Well, you do it with all your other stock, why not with your dogs?
Absolutely. And obviously I'm sure everyone that watches will agree that of the monetary value of a really good working dog, and so very much worth the investment in these areas.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. So look after your unsung heroes. In just a moment we're going to be talking about eventing and what's happening as far as the Warmbloods are concerned. We're launching into another year of eventing.
Yeah, well, we've just got our horses in a month ago, I suppose, and getting them fitted up and ready to go. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good season, and we'll press on through into the autumn and enjoy a few events that we have down south here.
Now, your role is changing a wee bit as far as breeding is concerned.
Yes, we've been breeding here for a few years now. We're going to cut that right back, and I'll concentrate just on a few horses for my competition side of things, and perhaps take a few outsiders in to break in, perhaps, or school for other people.
So you're basically looking at more quality rather than quantity as far as your horses for sale are concerned.
Yeah, well, it's not so much that. It's just, breeding was something we wanted to do, just for personal reasons. That's changed now, and we've really enjoyed it. We've bred some very nice horses, learnt a lot. We've had a great run, really. I mean, breeding, we haven't lost any foals or anything, touch wood. We've had a good run. Some people don't have so much luck, but yeah, put some nice horses out there, and it's great to see them, in good hands and progressing after you've started their life.
You've got a couple up for sale at the moment.
Yes, we've got several, couple of yearlings in the boxes there behind us, by Jim Bellow's sire from Aztec Stud that we use. We've found with 2 other Jim Bellows here as well. Mainly use him. We do have a Voltaire and a Ramirez that, and we've had success with Ramirez in the past with show jumping. But yeah, we find Jim Bellows are very good all-round, leaves good all-round types of horses, very saleable, great natures. They have some movement and can jump. One of ours has just been sold to Melbourne. She's gone 2-star eventing, and she's a cracking little horse. So I think I believe there's another one up at 2-star level with Jim Bellows. So those two have put probably Jimmy on the map for the eventing at least. But they up until now they've sort of been known more as dressage horses.
Because Sue Fowler and Aztec have done an amazing thing for the New Zealand industry.
Yeah, I think they have. The world's very small now. You can import semen from Germany or anywhere in the world, and use sires that for whatever purpose you wish. And they tend to think that we don't get the quality sires down here, but I don't know if I agree with that. We have some pretty good choices in New Zealand, and breeding's only part of the equation. It's how you produce them and how you ride them. It makes a big difference to how they turn out.
When you're selling a horse to somebody, do you try to match the horse to the person?
Try to. If you see that it's not going to work and someone's trying your horse, it's one, it's not going to be good for them, and two, it's not good for you. And we try to, if we can, have that ability to match up. It's good if you can.
I guess it's a personality thing, isn't it? If you can, they become one.
Yeah, they do, and it's nice to see, as I say, your horses turn out really well. For their sake, that's what you breed for, and for the rider's sake too. They're in it for pleasure, and you want that whole, that whole scenario. If that fits up good, it's so much better.
So, what other things are you doing as far as eventing is concerned? Because Big's retired.
Yeah, Big's retired now. He's and I've hunted through the winter. That's got rid of the winter nice and fast. It's usually a good thing. And so now, we'll keep pushing on. I've got 2 thoroughbred eventers, and hopefully one of Jim Bello in the background there. He's a young one, and I think he'll make a nice eventer, showing the qualities of what we're looking for. So we'll push forward, and my main one is ZC Hedging that I'm pretty pleased with, and potentially think he could go to the top. He's 1 star now, and we'll push on through the season and look at putting him into 2-star competition perhaps in the autumn, and see if we get this year. Goes well for us, then maybe next year he'll end up in the top, in the 3-star level. In
the meantime, you're still shoeing horses?
Still shoeing, not as many. The old body's telling me that it's had enough of big days. So I'd mix, I do, and I still enjoy it too. It's something I get out and you get you off the property and see a few people, and you can help with problems, and always catch up with the riders, other riders and things. So it's good, but toned down just quite a bit to what I used to do. It gives me time to ride and maybe do a little bit of this outside. Have horses from outside come in, and something where I don't have to bend over to perhaps make that proverbial dollar.
But you are doing a lot of training for other people's horses.
I've started to, but I've broken a couple of nice Warmbloods in last year, and this year mainly just our own, but I have had 2 others come in, hunters actually, through the winter, just to reschool really, just come to, had a few issues that needed straightening out perhaps. So starting, I think if you're any good, it's like my shoeing career, you don't have to advertise, it just sort of ends up growing, and this sort of side of things is, if I let it, I think it will. I've just kept a lid on it a wee bit now because of the time factor. I was leasing a farm, which I have now given up that lease, just so that'll open up a bit more time for this sort of thing. Yeah.
A lot of dedication goes into a season of eventing. After the break though, we're talking about black pipes.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
Tony, stock water, very important, especially with the dry season coming on.
Yes, I mean it's certainly getting to that time of year when we start looking at stock water and ensuring that you are set up for the coming summer. That's when the pressure comes on, and by all accounts we're heading in for a dryish summer with these northerly flows, and so good time to be thinking about preparing and ensuring your stock are going to have enough to drink.
There's a pretty big swing away from open water races to troughs now.
Yeah, all of a sudden water's become very valuable, and the average raced system in Canterbury anyway, the losses through the bottom of it are just getting unsustainable. A lot of the schemes are losing up to a third of the water that goes in are not getting to the stock. So definitely looking at piping all of those schemes, and that has the benefit, of course, of capturing the height. Not everybody knows, but Canterbury Plains from the foothills, dead flat, right across, 330 metres of fall to the sea. So we can capture that as soon as you put it in a pipe, and generally provide a gravity, a pumpless system to get the water to the troughs.
Where do you get the water from as the main source?
There's all sorts of options. We've got wells are the most common right throughout the Canterbury Plains. Usually you can drill a well and get enough water for stock. And then when you get up into the hills, we have copious springs and creeks and other areas that you can capture some water, put in basic filtering, and ensure that your stock have got a good quality drinking water.
Filtering?
Yes, usually if it's coming out of a stream or dam or something, there's the wind blows sticks and leaves and all sorts of stuff in that can cause a few problems to the valves in the troughs. So you'll put in some screening to keep that out.
Can you make it go uphill?
We'll add a bit of energy, and we can certainly go uphill, and our pipes are capable of taking water vertically 250 metres up, is about the limit for a standard pipe at the moment. So we can definitely pump to an elevation in a single pump of about 250 metres.
Tony, you've talked about Canterbury, but what about the rest of the nation?
Absolutely. We've got factories both here in Tynwald and in Hamilton, so we cover the whole country. And the hillier it is, the higher pressure pipe you have, and on the flats we get away with a lower pressure rating.
Now, hot, dry weather and frosts, both extremes, is black, is that a problem?
Frost is certainly not too much of a problem with polyethylene at all. It handles well below zero without any problems, but in the heat you definitely want to keep it out of the sunshine for two reasons. I mean, the stock certainly prefer cold water, and the pressure rating of the pipe decreases as the heating increases, so you've just got to be mindful of that as well. If there's water flowing through it, it's not too much of an issue, but if there are periods of time when there's not much water flowing through it, which is a characteristic of stock water, then the pipe will heat up and it will derate. So, but as long as it's below ground, it's the ground keeps it at an even ambient temperature.
Now, what about people who want to put things such as animal health remedies or anti-bloat or something like that into the system?
Absolutely. It's almost a standard now that dairy farms have injectors that put in bloat material and minerals and animal health remedies. So that is just the norm now, and the pipes are quite capable of handling all of those materials.
Availability?
Well, as you can see probably from this shot, we've got the odd coil lying around.
The odd bit around,
and we've recently had quite a reorganisation of production, which allows us to keep up with any foreseeable demand.
So I guess you get it into the ground by using a mole plough?
The most common way is to mole plough. Yes, right up to 100 mil now. There's people with mole ploughs that'll handle 110 millimetre pipe, and that just makes it more economic to get in the ground rather than digging a trench.
And of course, it doesn't leak.
No, very seldom do we ever have a leak in a piece of pipe, and it's quite robust. It can handle the stones and bits and pieces. So, and with this pipe, of course, you only got one join every 200 metres generally. So not too many issues or worries about leaks.
So there you are, there's a lot more to it than you probably thought. In just a moment we're going to be talking to Terry Copeland and finding out how the Young Farmers of the Year is coming along. Terry, Agri-Kids at Taitapu School shows that you can in fact win Agri-Kids in 1 year.
Yeah, these boys are quite an inspiration really. It's you need to have that sort of determination to win, you need to have a good base of skill, but more than anything just have some fun with it, and they certainly did.
It's a national competition.
Yeah, we started at the very beginning of the year, so around February, March into April, depending on the part of the country we're in. This year we started with 555 children competing in teams of 3, and it whittled down to 21 teams of 3 that got to grand final, and these 3 boys from Taitapu Primary made it through and won the thing.
What sort of skills do you need?
I guess you need to have a good sort of understanding of animals and where food comes from, and starting to apply some of those basic principles into agriculture.
These guys are pretty young. There's 3 stages though, aren't there?
Yeah, so the Agri-Kids is really for the 8 to 13 year old. When they go from primary school to secondary school, they can join teen ag clubs or form teen ag clubs at school. And there's a teen ag competition, that's a sort of 14 to 18 or 13 to 18, year 9 to year 13. And then once you get to post-school, then you get into the ANZ Young Farmer Contest where the real action begins.
As far as your movement is concerned, you're basically setting up open channels for anyone who wants anything to do.
Absolutely, yeah, this is not just for farming kids, this is for anybody that has an interest in where primary industry, so where food comes from, where fibre comes from, anything to do with land-based activity, because there's so many career options. It doesn't have to be a farming career, there's so many options for these young people in technology and science and marketing, as well of course as being on the land itself.
And as far as children are concerned, what channels do they go through? They lean on the teacher probably.
Yeah, it does help to have teachers that encourage, but we find there's lots of parents out there that just want their kids to have some kind of outdoor kind of pursuit as opposed to just sitting in front of a computer or a game.
A big strength obviously in the country rather than in the urban area.
At this stage, and that would be pretty common sense. Our big challenge is to replicate these things into urban environments so that we can pair up schools, an urban school with a country school, and actually get that dialogue going of what our industry is all about rather than just being gumboots and spades.
Because there's a huge resource in the city for the farming world.
Oh, absolutely. As more and more of our school children are actually based in the urban environment and losing touch with where agriculture comes from and does and how important it is, we actually need to engage with these urban schools.
Isn't it great that there's so many young people focusing on the industry, and they will grow into it and take it into the next era. After the break, we're going to be talking to this year's Young Farmer of the Year, who's having an interesting season.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure. Manufactured from healthy deep-sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active Amino Acid Biostimulant. the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
When you become the Young Farmer of the Year, you've got a lot of appointments that you've got to be at and speaking engagements and the whole thing, plus working your daily job. And that's what Matt's found. It's a very interesting job. Matt, since you've won the Young Farmer of the Year this year, I guess your legs have been a blur.
Yeah, she's been non-stop. We sort of got home, managed to settle down for about 10 or 15 days, and then calving started, so that pretty much wiped the whole glory and everything off. We were carving cows and pulling out all sorts, so we've been in the mud. It's been certainly a long sort of month and a half since the grand final, really. It hasn't really felt like we've had a break. Like winter's usually a break for us over dairying, but it hasn't really felt like that with the grand final, then all the other stuff. But it's so much fun, like all this, I guess, post the grand final, like coming to schools and talking in different schools and things like that. It's really awesome, really enjoying it.
One labour unit down during calving?
No, so yeah, we had staffing issues over calving and it's made it pretty tough, but all the other boys have stepped up, so it's been, 70, 80, 90-hour weeks at times, but that's just what you have to do to get through. And it makes it a bit tough when it's a $3.85 payout, that you're doing all that work and you're not really you're going backwards essentially. But it is one of those things that's just going to be 1 year hopefully, and we'll get through. We're in a pretty decent position to just deal with it.
It's been an interesting spring.
That's an optimistic way of talking about the spring. It's been rubbish. Like we're just, no grass. Our grass, I looked at the ground temperature yesterday, we're 5.1. We grew 13 kilos a day through all of August. I just did a farm walk yesterday. Like it is one of those things. It's just a case of, it's almost a perfect storm because you can't afford to buy an extra feed because the money's just not there. So you just have to grit and bear it. Thankfully, we've been able to keep cows, scrimp a few extra days on winter grazing and just trying to do all those little things. We're going to get rid of some culls early. We've got some poor rotted cows, so we're just looking at every lever that we can pull to help us save money. So there'll be no passengers in the herd this year. Everything's going to have to be pulling its weight, and we're going to get quite hard on that. So if we have to drop 50 cows, we drop 50 cows. The number is almost not going to become irrelevant, but the total number of cows we milk is just going to be what we'll milk that's making money. Well, not losing so much money, I guess.
You've always been very positive though, Matt.
Oh, it's not that bad. It's one of those things that you look at the sheep and beef industry, for example, they've dealt with poor payouts the last 20, 30 years as a majority. They'll have the odd year, but whereas dairying, this is just, it'll teach us a lot of good lessons, I believe. The industry as a whole will learn a lot from this, that $1.65, $1.70, $2 worth of debt is unsustainable per kilo. So I think it'll be very good for the industry, and it'll actually learn or teach us to set a budget. This is what we should be budgeting on every year, this disastrous bad payout. So when we hit an $8.40 payout, you pay down a bit of debt and you have a really good year. But you're not just, we've got heaps of money coming in, so we'll put more out. I think it'll be good for the industry.
So you're not going to lift the foot off the throat?
Nah, I think this will be our mentality going into it every year now, is we will be budgeting on a terrible payout, irrespective of what's coming out, the noise coming out of the industry.
We're at the Taitapu School with the 3 winners of the Agri Kids. There's a lot of talent coming through.
Like I said, I just talked to the assembly before, I'm very glad I'm not going in this again, because these, like the 3 young Agri Kids, they'd do really well at a district final level in the young farmer contest. Give these kids 3 or 4, some life experience once they leave school, they'll be unbelievably tough. And then that teen ag that they step into next, that's a phenomenal thing as well. And we're just starting to see those kids come through into the young farmer contest, so I'm glad I'm out, to be honest.
very good prestige. I mean, once you get to your level, in the future, it's going to be like a rugby test match, isn't it?
Well, I think it's superb. Like it'll add more to the contest. It'll push the contest forward. Like you see, like for example, our grand final was a tie. Like they've got closer and closer. I think last year was 2 points in it. The year before that was about 4 points. So it just lifts the whole level of competition because people realise, God, I've got to compete against these kids who are 18, 19, who have been doing this for 5 or 6 years. Like I've only done it for 5 or 6 years, whereas these kids, they hit the contest and they're already at that level of experience. So it's only going to be positive for the young farmer organisation and the contest itself. And it could, I don't know, hopefully push it into a 7:30 time slot. Who knows?
Of course, the other thing is it's just good for the industry.
Oh, it's brilliant. Like this is a great way of attracting people to the agriculture industry, and then they get into it and think, this is really fun, I really enjoy, it might be fencing, so they go off into be a fencer, or I really enjoy working with animals, so they go and be a vet. Like it's such a great way of attracting people because you put a few prizes and a bit of prestige, and everyone likes their face in the paper. I know I do. So just having that to attract kids to this industry, like I put an ad on Fence Post the other day for a staff member. I got 2 Kiwis apply out of 65. It's embarrassing. Like we should have just a flood of Kiwi kids wanting to come into this great industry that we have. I would have thought anyway.
Jeff, it's getting closer, the Canterbury MP Show, because your tickets are on sale now.
They are on sale. They always come on sale at the beginning of spring. We align ourselves with the New Zealand Cup and Show Week brand, so Riccarton Raceway and Addington Raceway, we all go on sale together. It's, I guess, the beginning of our carnival week.
All of a sudden it's intense.
It's pretty intense, yeah, and it's just going to get more intense as the phone starts to ring non-stop and everyone starts to demand your attention. Effectively, Rob, if we're not organised now, we're in trouble.
In deep trouble.
Yeah. But we're organised, we know what we're doing, and we're confident of a great show.
You've got a very good team, haven't you, around you?
Extraordinary team. Probably their greatest skill set is their humility and their ability to deal with people. And it's right across the board in the team, and they have to be because so many of our volunteers come from that rural community. They put a lot of their time in, so they need my team to be understanding and attentive, and I guess enable us to enable them to go and do their thing.
I mean, I've been involved with the AMP show since I was knee-high to a perching pullet, and people don't understand how it actually just works like clockwork.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody understands how it works like clockwork from beginning to end. There is not a single person that understands the whole thing. It's far too complicated for that. When I took over about 3 years ago, we transitioned and we had new staff members come on board, and some very good staff members that had been there for over a decade moved to different roles. And one of our key things, or my key thing, was keep those old employees, those people that were leaving, on our side because we were going to have to ring them. Exactly. And we do ring them. We ring them all the time. And there's so much knowledge that's in their brain that we need to get out and get our new people to know.
I love the way that you start at the bottom as a volunteer and you work your way up.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it takes years. But it's pretty important too for us that those people in those roles have all that experience, because they are in control of live animals, big crowds, and so we need them to be experienced, and so we promote them based on all the time they put in.
And for example, the beef judging, there's never a moment where people are standing around waiting. If we could do that at a motor racing circuit, it would be fabulous.
Yeah, no, they move at lightning speed, and they're judging, so it's very, it's subjective, based on all of their experience, and so there's always going to be people disagreeing or agreeing, and so it's a hard job, and we're thankful for those people putting themselves out there and helping us.
Jeff, feather in your cap, you've got a royal event as far as equine's concerned. Yes,
we do. So with Nikki Hutch being our first female president in 153 years, it was appropriate, given her extraordinary commitment to the equestrian section over many, many decades, that status be bestowed upon that particular event. And so the RAS, of course, will be there, and we'll work together with them, and instead of choosing between getting a royal ribbon and a Canterbury MP ribbon, come to our show and you can get both.
Well, 2 for the price of 1. Tell me about the Spring Into Action business that you've got.
Well, Spring Into Action is another one of those wonderful events created by the equestrian section and all the volunteers involved in it. It's for novice riders, people that want to begin their competition or they're competing, and also we use it to train judges. It's becoming very popular. It's on the 20th of September, and I think our entries close at the end of the week, so get in there.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's an event in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's a great training ground for young
Yep.
or new judges.
It's a fully fledged equestrian event with all of the, or many of the disciplines, and we encourage people that have not competed before to come.
Trade exhibits?
Full, pretty much. I've got a long list. In fact, I had a very large corporate ring me this morning begging for a site, and the answer was, I'm not really sure I'm going to be able to give you what you want. It's very popular, and it's great value for money. These businesses are, they're turning over lots of money, and it's a great injection to the economy.
Now, the other thing, I guess, is it's been a pretty tough season. So what about sheep and beef entries? Are you expecting them to be strong this year?
We don't know, is the answer to that. It's really clear to us that all of those exhibitors will be at the show. They come to the show for the social reasons, and if they are struggling or they're having troubles on their farms because of the price of dairy or because of the drought, they often will come to a show to meet other farmers and get advice and talk and chat and just generally have some fun for a change. And so they'll be there, and whether they bring 5 sheep or 3 sheep, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it is too early at this stage.
It's far too early to say, and we just encourage them to come and do what they can and be a part.
I guess the other thing is that it doesn't matter if you've had a hard year; everyone else that you're competing against has as well.
That's right. Often you'll hear economists doom and gloom, and they'll say, "Oh, we've had a 1% recession," and what people fail to remember is the other 99% of the economy's still there. So, what's 1%?
Yeah, exactly. Socially, because you've got your social stuff as far as the farmers are concerned.
Yep.
They're rubbing shoulders, having coffees and having hellos and such. But it's Carnival Day on the Friday.
Yeah, it is Carnival Day on the Friday. We so this year we're bringing in probably the biggest band in New Zealand history, the Feelers.
The Feelers?
The Feelers.
Okay.
Yep. They're an enormous act. They've had that many number ones. They leave most other bands to shame, more radio play than any other band in New Zealand, and they're going to play a very big sound. It's going to be a big gig, and they're from Christchurch, so it's a bit of a homecoming from them. And for the show, again, it's another step up, probably the biggest band they've ever had, and it will just add to that carnival feeling.
So that's Friday.
That's Friday, yep.
And so isn't it amazing that the whole of Canterbury stops so that they can go to the show on the Friday?
Well, they have to, because traditionally Canterbury is a dry farming region, and come that sort of this first Friday after the second Tuesday in November, in the days gone by, they would bale up the hay and pack all their things up and leave their farms and come into town.
We always just got the first cut of Lusu in the show week.
That's right, yep. and there. So I guess that tradition just shows how important farming has been to not only Christchurch but to Canterbury.
It's 153 years.
153 years, that's right. So that first show, I think, was at Sydenham Park on Brougham Street, and it's only evolved from there.
Can I say that the park that you're at now is
Yes.
starting to really mature? I mean, there was a lot of questions when it was first produced.
Yeah. It is maturing. Those trees are certainly, some of them are taking off. In fact, a lot of them are taking off. And that's that time where, you put a tree in the ground for 15 to 20 years and then suddenly it'll go. A lot of that is down to Dougal Thomas, the operations manager, who has been there, I think, since the beginning in that new park. And he is one of those unsung heroes of the show that does an enormous amount of work to make it work. He knows how to convince people to give him some fertiliser or to lay some asphalt for next to nothing. And that's those little tricks in life, those winks and those nods that make the show special, and he's one of those special guys.
Yeah. And of course, there is, as you said, there are social events. I mean, a lot of the farmers would have a barbecue on a certain night.
Yeah, so the beef guys will have a barbecue, I think, on the Wednesday night. The sheep exhibitors will have their big do on the Thursday night, and there'll be a cocktail party for many and members and lots of other people on the Thursday night also. And I think the equestrian section will have a shindig of their own.
Bound to have a shindig of their own.
That's right, yep. And then, of course, there's the Bar and the Continental Cafe, which will have all sorts of stuff going on in it. So, yeah.
And very briefly, the produce shed, that's always a big attraction, isn't it? Well, I shouldn't say produce, I mean that food shed.
Yeah, the Food and Wine Pavilion is pretty exciting. Yeah. It's got some really interesting food manufacturers in there this year, and wine, which feeds, of course, off our International Aromatic Wine Competition, where last year we had over 400 entries. So again, we're expecting high numbers of entries. We've already got lots coming in, so it's exciting.
It is exciting indeed. Thank you very much indeed. If you'd like to check on anything that Jeff said or have another look at his interview, of course, it's on our website, which is ontheland.co.nz. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed the program, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then, bye now.